Definitely not. And like Batman's one of my favorites, right? So it was sort of it's really disappointing to see where they've taken that character. Um, I don't know. I mean, Batman's use of guns alone sort of like really throws me off, and I have a really hard time with that. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that, but
Yeah.
these last couple movies, he's been heavily reliant on firearms, and I think that that's a dangerous precedent to set for such an like what used to be a really great character.
What makes him any different from the Punisher then? Like if he's just going to be using guns.
Right, exactly.
It depends with.
He's rich. That's the difference. But I felt like they did the same thing with the Superman character, where both Batman and Superman in those movies are the least likable characters in those whole movies, including the villains, right? Like it's very strange that I actually found myself rooting against Superman by the end of it. And I don't know if that's how everybody else reacted to it, but to me it felt like they were really working hard to make those two characters the least likable and to raise the profile of the other four, which I thought was weird.
I do not agree with the gun thing with Batman, and the reason is that, well, it really depends what kind of Batman you're expecting. Because if you go with the really classic one, I agree with you, but we should not forget that that Frank Miller happened with the Dark Knight Returns.
Good point.
And Frank Miller describes a Batman which is old, and he has to
adapt.
He's not as flexible as he used to be. He's not as brilliant as he used to be. So he has to compensate with guns. So I mean, that per se, I don't see that as a big problem. The only problem I see is that I really don't know what kind of Batman they're going right now with the Justice League and that kind of movies. If they go for an older Batman, I can see that. But if you go with that, you got to remember that is totally out of context with the other heroes, because the other heroes too are old. So that doesn't make too much sense. But having said that, I mean, I kind of get that. I kind of like it, you know. He's in a world where there's these people with amazing powers, and what the fuck does he have to do? I mean, fuck me. I can grab a pistol and shoot the guy in the face, because fuck me.
You guys are forgetting that the arc of Bruce Wayne and Batman, as I remember it, and I'm not a huge DC fan, is that he was a hand-to-hand person most of all, but his contraptions and his ability to be a strategist are what came to the forefront through later editions of Justice League. Like, obviously, when you're fighting space aliens, what the fuck is Batman gonna do? So they kind of changed his role from somebody who's going to do the fighting to somebody who's going to do the strategizing, strategic.
But you're right. I mean, if they were to make a Batman movie which is a 1960 canon, what they really should do is CSI Batman, because I mean that's Batman, right? Mm-hmm. He's a detective. I mean, I think the original title of the comic book was Private
Comics.
Yeah, right. I mean, so he's a fucking detective dressed up like a bloody moron. Do you want me to really punch in the face people which can, fly or I don't know. Fuck me. I'm gonna shoot them with everything I've got.
I'm gonna shoot them right in the face.
Yeah, right. With an atomic bomb if I've got one. Yeah, because I'm filthy rich. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. And that's why I really like the Christopher Nolan trilogy. That made sense because keep in mind they set it up in a universe where that made sense.
Yeah, but that was Batman's. I mean, that was the sort of the edge that Batman walked on, right? Like he was meant to be like he realized he had to be a symbol to evil that they should be afraid, right? Like he was a fearful. So he was basically terrorizing criminals already, right? I mean, that was his role. But now it becomes like, but he always had to walk between like being the law-abiding good person, right? Like he was a vigilante who didn't kill people, and I think that was an interesting line to walk for Batman. especially in like when it came to like the denouement where he gets to his arch rival, like the Joker or something like that, and then decides not to kill him. But he generally does find it in his heart to be the bigger person, right? To not take that extra step and eliminate that person from the world, but just to simply to frighten them and give them another chance to make right. And I don't know. I mean, I understand how you can't have that in this DC Universe Justice League thing, right? Like, I think that's when you're dealing with space aliens and people with superpowers. A guy in a black cape, he's not very frightening, and he's not going to make those people think twice. And I get it. I think there has to be something else there. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what sort of bothered me about that movie, Chris, was that the other characters I felt real attractions to. I thought the Flash, even Cyborg, who I thought was a little hokey, but like I even sort of admired that character. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, all those characters are really great. And then you get to Superman and Batman, and those guys seem absolutely one-dimensional. You know, there almost seems to be no real character development with those guys. This might be a spoiler alert, but like, I mean, what did you think, Chris, when they brought they brought Superman back to life at the middle of the movie, and then he just flies away to Ohio to go visit his old home? Like, what did you think about that? Like, doesn't that seem like? And then what happens? Like, oh, they're in trouble at the last battle. Well, it looks like Superman finished his lemonade at his old house or whatever, so he flew back and finally helped out, right? Like, what was the big delay for that? Like, that wasn't a surprise. It wasn't like we already knew he was alive and not with the rest of the crew. What were we expecting? That he was just not going to show up at the end of the movie, and he would just be stuck in Ohio till the end of the movie? Like, that's it. It totally threw me off. It made me feel very uncomfortable with the storyline. And I felt like the whole movie was just a series of foreshadowed plot lines or plot setups, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but I saw where they were going with it in a different direction, right? Like, of course, there was going to be divine intervention. If that's your point, there was no way of hiding the fact that Superman was the divine intervention that was going to happen at the end when things were starting to look like they were going to fall apart, right? So the arc of the Superman thing was him coming back to life, not knowing what's going on, becoming reacquainted, reconnecting, and so the audience can reconnect with Superman as a character so that the series can move forward now. That's how I saw it. I saw it as like alone time with Superman, so you can check out his development as he connects with the people that are important to him, and then pow, now back to the battle. So when he comes in for divine intervention, you're like, fuck yeah, Superman, can't wait for the next Justice League.
I mean, I guess that's a good way to shore up a poorly developed character after you've already created a shallow one, right? Like, kill him off and then re-revive him, and then he's got to figure out who he is and what his motivations are.
All right. Brutal. Jesus Christ.
I don't know. I want to like those movies. I really do. It's unfortunate they don't come up to my super high standards, I guess.
Well, you guys were talking about Batman and everything. I was taking a walk, and you know, when you mentioned that he uses guns, I was thinking of the very first episode of Batman Arkham. No, sorry, Batman Beyond. You know where he has the new suit on, but he's old and he can't really fight that much, and you know he's trying to rescue. I think it was the movie star. But he's trying to fight, and he has a heart attack. And, one of the bad guys is trying to, wants to hit him with a crowbar. But in a last-ditch effort, he grabs the gun, and then then afterwards he walks out of the warehouse without horrified that he had to resort to a weapon. Like, Batman was never supposed to use guns.
Oh, geez, here we go. You got somebody on your team, John. You got somebody on your team.
I have to agree with him. I mean, but I think it's even more than that, right? Like, it's that Batman feels bad if he uses a gun, right?
Yeah.
Like that he views himself as above that.
He's a shell of a man,
dude.
Yeah.
A gun.
Well, then why doesn't he just
get? Why the fuck were you old? Go ahead.
Yeah. But like I think if you're gonna give Batman guns, right, then why doesn't he just become a long range sniper? I mean, that would terrorize criminals at a way more effective rate. He could if he's just gonna kill them, then all we need is a guy with a sniper rifle, right?
I mean,
so
because he's a narcissist.
Like the whole thing.
Because
look, Thomas Wayne. Wait, Batman's a narcissist? No.
Yes,
Thomas,
absolutely. He wants the crooks to see him. He wants to watch them suffer. He wants retributive justice to be empirical. So what fun would that be if he was a sniper? That's
why Batman and the Joker are perfect foils for each other, right? Because they both feel that need to get the response from their victims. You know, they both, like, Batman wants fear, and the Joker wants that like a similar sort of like a hilarity. You know, like
he's a narcissist for good.
He wants chaos.
I guess you could say.
Yeah, chaos.
Absolutely.
When I was a kid, I used to like Superman, and as I got older, I liked him less and less. Because the problem is he's too powerful. So you can't create plot tension unless you either send him away on another mission, or this supposedly rare kryptonite that's supposed to barely exist has to exist in ridiculous quantities so that the villains always have some.
So Joe, real quick, I just want to let you know that when I'm on a job interview, and they ask me, like, so what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? What describe my weaknesses? I say exactly what you said about Superman. Too powerful.
There you go.
Wow.
You wanna scare him.
You guys think that he's kidding? He's not.
No,
kidding.
but like Superman's dilemma though is not that he can't, or that, like, it's not that we're worried that he's going to be beat, right? Like, what always made Superman stories compelling is that his power sort of imbued him with a certain responsibility to humanity, right, to other people, like, and that was the conflict that he had to deal with, was that he was indestructible and he would never be hurt, so his personal survival was never at risk, but did that power obligate him to help people who were at risk? And I think that's a compelling storyline that could have been advanced in this movie that was totally ignored, right? It simply became his power was the solution to the powerful problem that was coming up, right? It was simply just a straightforward,
From what you're saying, though, and that's the thing, though, with Superman, you're right. Yes, you can do that, but you can only do that so many times before it gets played out. I think so, yeah, because it's like...
I think they've been doing it since the 50s pretty successfully.
Like, for instance, like, okay, probably my favorite Superman thing of all was Superman 2. Because for one, now he's facing equals, and 3 of them.
Zod.
So, and they're not quite equal to him because they don't have the experience or whatever, and also they're selfish, so that they don't really team up very well. But yes, they did create the dilemma of, hey, once the enemy realizes, okay, it's not so easy to beat him, but all we have to do is threaten the people, and we can create a conflict, and then then they go off to his lair and all that kind of stuff. But again, that's great, and that was awesome. That's probably why it was so awesome. But if you keep doing that same story, then it's boring. It doesn't have, you know what I mean? If it's like, oh, it's that same story again. Oh, okay. The 15th time, like, yeah, this is the part when then it becomes Police Academy 15. You
got to put him up against someone really strong, like Atomic Man. Was it the fifth Superman movie? But he does have he has genuine trouble against people who use magic, like what's his name, Black Adam. Yeah, because he can't do anything against magic. He's just fucked. So.
Okay, so that's fair. So you can do something, but again, too, you can only do that so many times before it gets. Oh, this is the same part. It's because he's just so powerful that it's like, of course he's going to solve the problem because he's indestructible.
What do you do if Superman just says fuck it? Like, what can you actually stop him?
Yeah, and that is interesting. I've never not read that, but that does sound interesting to me.
Yeah. What if Superman said "fuck it" and was a racist?
Oh.
Yeah, so you're done. Like everyone, we're just done. Just fuck it. Okay.
If you want to read a really interesting comic with that kind of twist, you should read. There is a how do you call not a line, but I mean there is a serious comic. It's called Superman Red Son.
Oh yeah, the Russian version of Superman.
Yeah,
that's a good concept.
That is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because they weaponize, if I understand correctly, when Kal-El's ship lands on Earth, it doesn't land in Ohio or Kansas or wherever. Instead, it lands in Russia.
He lands in Russia, yeah. And he, you know, as much as the American version, you know, embraces the American point of view, he actually embraces the Russian point of view. And we're talking about, I think, 50s Russia, so it's full-fledged communism.
No,
And-
Comrade Man.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It is. It's a very good comic.